Hi Leo, my ascendant brothers and sisters, welcome to your March 2023 Astro-Tarot scope with me, Raphael from Reydiant Reality. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. So, these are for your sun, moon and ascendant sign, although I do advise that you watch your ascendant sign first because I'm incorporating the astrology in this, so it's always going to be more accurate. Then you watch your sun, then you watch your moon, unless you were born at night or unless you are a woman, because you guys tend to have more of an affinity with the lunar energies. With that said, you can watch all three. Remember, they are general readings. Not everything's going to resonate with everybody, and that is just fine. You should always use your own discernment. Before we start, as always, I would like to bless my decks of cards with all forms of love, light, peace, prosperity, and abundance. And I pray that the messages that come through are ultimately clear and concise, and they help you on your path to your highest vibrational good. So, we are going to start, I'm going to pop these to the side. We are going to be starting with the biggest transit of the month. And the first biggest transit of the month on March the 7th, Saturn is moving out of the sign of Aquarius and into the sign of Pisces, which for you is your 8th house, right? So Saturn moving into the 8th can bring some really interesting stuff. A few ways that this could show up. This could literally see you getting a mortgage. Why? Because Saturn rules debt, right? And Saturn rules debt. The 8th house is other people's money. It's taxes, loans, debts, mortgages, things that are of that kind of longer term nature, and it is other people's money, and ultimately a mortgage comes from a bank, etc. Now Saturn rules the long term, right? Its limits, its structures, its boundaries, limitations. It is where burdens and heavy or hard work show up for us. So a mortgage is hard work, right? It's a long-term commitment. It's a long-term financial commitment, and it's, you know, if you break down the word mortgage, mortgage, a death debt or a death gauge, which is a bit grim, but you kind of get my point. So with Saturn moving into the 8th house, 8th house is also the taboo. It's sex, sensuality. It's all of those things that, you know, aren't polite conversation. This could see, like, some of the writings on Saturn in the 8th house as a transit talks about like problems, like developing problems around sex or sensuality. I actually see it the other way, right? Because the 8th house can sometimes be, you know, our deep psychological wounds, etc. And because Saturn has a crystallizing energy, what I feel like this is going to do for a lot of Leo ascendants, to a lesser degree, but still relevant, sun and moon, is this is going to really see you getting very serious about understanding where your wounds come from and how they're holding you back. It's going to see you potentially working with a counselor or a therapist. Because it is Saturn, this person's likely to be older than you, older, wiser, had a few more trips around the sun. That way you can be getting the best knowledge, wisdom and insight from somebody that has more knowledge or experience than you do, in order to help you kind of process and work through some of your stuff. The 8th house is also traumas. It's also sex and sensuality. And so while, you know, Saturn is a limitation kind of energy, or, you know, maybe it holds it back from us, I think this is going to be more a case of you start to get really, not serious, but more responsible with your sexual energy. You start to really kind of think more to yourself about, you know what, maybe I'm not doing this whole hookup one night stand thing. Don't look at me, I've been celibate for basically 3 years. Profoundly single, darling. So do you see what I mean? Like, this can see you getting a lot more sort of like, okay, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to, you know, have sex, if I'm going to connect to people on that intimate level, it has to be right. It has to be of a certain level of caliber. Now, Saturn is a very spiritual energy on its own. Moving into the sign of Pisces and into the 8th house, this means that there's a double hit of this spiritual energy, but it's the deeper stuff. So this could be you doing the study and the research on the occult, rather than getting like the flashy results and the, oh, look at me, I'm levitating and stuff. Like, maybe this is where you start to really deepen and hone your craft, right? For me, this is astrology, right? Tarot, I can do in my sleep with my eyes closed. You could read me a set of cards, and while I had my eyes closed, I wouldn't need to see them now. I could literally just read for you without having to see the cards. But astrology, no, I have to get more serious about that now, because even though I've been studying astrology for quite a while now, now I'm having to really hone in on that craft, to really start to deepen my knowledge in that subject. And it's probably going to take me this Saturn transit of doing it. So that's to give you like a real world example of how it might show up for you. It could also be that you get a loan or a mortgage, right? Maybe you're paying off, because remember Saturn, the 8th house is also debts. It could potentially bring problems or challenges around an inheritance as well. So that's something that you need to be mindful of. But yeah, all of these things may possibly come up. Now for this, you have the Three of Cups. Okay, so that's an interesting card to have here. With the Page of Swords and the Moon, right? So this is effectively you initiating connections with people that have a deeper sort of weight about them. So the Three of Cups is actually a really light-hearted, fun energy of get-togethers and connections. It's also a card of reunions. Now you've got this here with the Page of Swords and the Moon. So the Moon card is the past. And so this suggests that maybe this Saturn moving into the 8th, this is going to see you start to not resurrect, but certainly maybe reconnect to old friends, to people that maybe you had romantic connections with, potentially with people from your past. Another way that you could see this could see you interviewing, or maybe you're having interviews to connect with deeper groups. Maybe you're joining a coven. Maybe you're starting some kind of formal occult studies. Maybe you are, there's a whole bunch of ways you could see it. If you are going after loans, mortgages, bursaries, funds, etc., this suggests that you can absolutely get them. That Moon card does suggest, though, you just want to make sure you know what you're signing. All right, so you're just making sure you're doing it at the right time, as they say. The second big transit of the month is going to be Pluto moving out of the sign of Capricorn and just dipping its toes, or chucking its head round the corner, as I like to say, into the sign of Aquarius, right? It's going to come into Aquarius. It's going to sit at 0 degrees of Aquarius, the same space at which, I might add, where the Great Conjunction took place, first and foremost. And second, because you're a fixed sign, you're going to feel this we'll all feel this in multiple areas of life, but because you're a fixed sign and it's moving into a fixed sign, you are going to feel this, right? So whatever you have in Aquarius, whatever you have in Leo, whatever you have in Scorpio, whatever you have in Taurus, is going to feel the effects of this. If you're a Leo ascendant, this is moving into your 7th house of relationships, partnerships, one-on-one connections. How you, and I've said this before, if you've been with me long enough, you will have heard me say this. I love what I do with YouTube. This is how I've built my entire world, my business, my everything, right? But the real work that I do is done at the table. When I do my one-on-one, one-to-one readings, that's where the shifts, the transformations, and all the rest of it happens. If you work in a sector or a section, a sector where you work one-on-one, that Pluto coming into the 7th, there is probably, and remember this is just a 3-month transit, it's going to dip its, chuck its head round the door to have a look in the Aquarius space, until around June, late June-ish, and then it's going to come back into Capricorn, and then in January of 2024, it will come into Aquarius for full time. So you're getting a heads up this month especially, but the next 3 months of what that's going to bring. Now, what it could bring is more intense relationships that require more presence, relationships that require you to really check out and look at the power dynamics, right? Pluto rules power. It also rules death, destruction. It also rules rebirth and transformation, and it's also a very magnetic energy. coming into that 7th house, you can be attracting partners and connections that are a lot more intense, that require you to be a lot more present. The work that you're doing, like the work that I'm doing, if you've been with me, you know, you will have seen I put out posts about new services, things that I'm doing. I want to start working more with people on that transformational level. And the fact that I'm doing it as Pluto is moving into my 7th house is kind of, you know, it's uncanny, right? And I'm noticing this, the people that I'm working with, especially in my energy work sessions, they're really deep. We're getting into some really interesting stuff and we're seeing shifts and transformations, and I'm loving it. But it's requiring a lot more of me, you know, in so many different ways. So to give you an example, relationships is also marriage, you know, your significant other, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, the husband, the wife. It's also your competitors as well in the 7th house. And so the fact that Pluto's coming into the 7th, this whole thing about, because Pluto's been in the 6th for Leo ascendants, and so, you know, a lot of the enemies and the issues that you've had have come from behind the scenes or spaces that are hidden to you. Now that Pluto comes into the 7th, you're going to know who your enemies are. You're going to know who your competitors are. You're going to know who the people that have been working at cross purposes of you are. Pluto don't fuck around, right? When it comes into any space, it says we're going to get to the bottom of all of this. It's just been in Capricorn. Look at everything we've learned about the royal families, the elites. Look at what we've learned about the corporate structures of the world. Look at all of their secrets. You know, like I don't know if you've ever saw the film Save the Last Dance, you know, where she says, I will lay all your shit bare. That's Pluto, right? Pluto will be out here airing your business casually, okay? So you will know. And I mean, the beauty of this is, while it might not be comfortable and it might feel quite intense, it won't be happening behind your back. When you can see it, you can deal with it. Or if you want to, fight it. I'm much too classy for that, darling. I'll find a way. We like strategy. All jokes aside, that's to give you an understanding of how this might show up, right? It's also a very magnetic energy, as I mentioned, and so you could pull in some very powerful people to work with. You know, people that you get into contracts and combinations and collaborations or even relationships with can be more serious, they can be more intense, they can be more impactful. Remember, Pluto is a very powerful energy, so you could be meeting, mixing with, and collaborating with more powerful people moving forward. So with this, you've got the 3 of Pentacles. Isn't that interesting, right? So Saturn, you have the 3 of Cups, and Pluto, you've got the 3 of Pentacles. This transit is going to teach you. It's going to teach you a lot in just the 3 months that it happens. Look at that. There's the 3 of Swords. Just as I was laying that, I said 3 months. The 3 of Swords represents 3 months as a fucking time period. Like, you can't make this stuff up. Now, here's where this gets really interesting to me and my little tarot geek brain. 2 3s represents a calming influence. Pluto, while it does, you know, pull stuff apart and destroy things, it's not Mars. Pluto, you know, Mars is, I'm gonna smash around. Mars is the Hulk. You know, whereas Pluto is like Wonder Woman, right? Still very, very strong, very, very fast, but a lot more controlled and refined. And so for that reason, you might find that while the intensity is there, there's a focus and there's a quiet to it. And that's not to say that Mars can't have that. It just depends on the sign and the house that it's in. Whereas Pluto just has it, right? So it's an interesting one. And then with the 4 of Wands, especially next to the 3 of Swords, this is a release of some sort, right? Because the 3 of Swords is about what we're letting go of. So you're learning, the 3 of Pentacles, to let go of the structures that you've had previously in how you enjoy yourself with people one-on-one. So that can be through sex and sensuality. Interesting, because you've got Saturn in the 8th. It can also be that you're starting to let go of, you know, the airy fairy fun Leo and starting to focus more on the dignified, dutiful, silent dignity of yourself and your sign, as I like to call it. So I call Leo, you know, you've got 2 types. You've got the theatrical ones, much like myself, or my ascendant self at least. And then you've got the silent dignity type. They've still got all of that stuff cooking under the surface. All you silent dignity types out there, looking down your nose at me like, well, I'll never be, all of that. I know you lot love to watch soaps that have got all of that drama in. Your third and biggest transit of the month is Mars is moving into the sign of Cancer. Now, for those of you that are ascendant Leos, that's your 12th house, your true 12th house. To a lesser degree, the sun and the moon still relevant, right? Especially because you're ruled by the sun. So, whatever's happening in Cancer is technically 12th house energy. Now, for you, Mars happening in the 12th, your dreams can become a lot more active, a lot more violent as well sometimes. The frequency and the intensity of those dreams can really ramp up at this time as well. It may also be, because the 12th house is the past, some challenge or issue from your past could come back up now. It could be a problem or an issue, and it's like when it does, it might be a little bit kind of like, whoa, okay, this is intense. I never thought I'd have to deal with this again. It's coming up for resolution, all right? It really is coming up to be released. And if you can do the hard work of doing it, you might actually find that you can really just move forward. The other thing with Mars in the 12th as well, you might find that you're a lot more, I don't want to say reactive, but you might find that it's almost like you try to hold on to things a little bit more and you seethe about them. If you can find a way to just release it, it will be much better served. For this, you've got the Knight of Swords, so potentially going to be some clashes. It's only a 6-week transit, so don't worry too much. But Knight of Swords, that could bring some aggressive communication. You've got this with the Justice card, so potentially a legal dispute as well. I would be mindful of getting into any form of legal dispute or issue while Mars is moving through your 12th house. If you have to, just stay on the right side of everything. Do it all by the book. And then you've got the 9 of Pentacles. I actually really like that. On the lighter side of this could be, it could be a contract or a purchase of some sort that has like a longer sort of term meaning for you. With that 9 of Pentacles, this could be, you really wanting to enjoy yourself, but it's like you've got this thing going on in the background. And so you're like, you know what, until this is done with, I can't really enjoy myself. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out. Okay, so let's have a look at the different sectors of your life. For your actions and interactions with the world at large, March is bringing you all right, so you got the 3 of Wands, nice, with the 3 of Swords. Look at that, isn't that interesting? So the first time we saw the 3 of Swords, you had this with the 3 of Pentacles, right? And now you've got it with the 3 of Wands. So some form of travel that some of you had planned to, look at that, right? And then with the 10 of Swords, I'm really sorry to say this, if you have a trip or a journey planned for March, or potentially one in March or April, it looks like it's not going ahead. Now, another way that this could also show up is an idea or a speculative idea. So an investment, a gamble, a business idea, may not go ahead as planned. It might be that you either need more time for it or something isn't ready. Some component of it isn't ready. If, as I say, this is about travel, I'm really sorry to say, but that's a trip that you're not going to be making. Now, here's where this gets interesting, because again, you've got 2 3s. This suggests that you're quite calm about it. It's like it's not a problem or an issue. It's just like, okay, you know what? This isn't going to happen. It's not going to happen in the time frame that I'd set forward. It's not happening on the date that I'd wanted it to. It will happen. It's just saying not right now. For your work and academics, you've got the Ace of Wands, the 9 of Pentacles, love that, and the 7 of Cups. So there is something that's a little bit unclear here, right? There is a fresh start. There's good news in terms of work and studies, which I really like. The Ace of Wands with the 9 of Pentacles suggests that you're dedicated to something And the reason, let's be call a spade, you're dedicated to it because you're enjoying learning about it. So this is you gaining either new skills, new knowledge, new wisdom. You're having a lot of fun with it. But the Seven of Cups, there's a confusion here as to maybe what some of the next steps are. So whether you're employed or you've got your own business, there's a sense of, well, I'm just really enjoying what I'm doing right now. But there is a kind of like in the back of your mind or in the background, it's like, I'm not really sure how this fits in. For some of you, maybe a parent or a family member is trying to say to you, listen, you're studying this thing. How are you going to use it? How are you going to be able to, to make money from this in the future? And you're just kind of like, well, I just want to be more present and enjoy what I'm doing. I will get into more of how this shows up for all of us in other types of readings that are coming. So don't worry if I haven't got to those of you that are retired and all the rest of it like I used to. There's new content coming. It's just being shaped into being, all right? And I very much am enjoying just creating it. How it all looks, 100%. Look at that, even for me, right? I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm just enjoying creating it. So for your love and relations, you've got the Two of Pentacles with the Ace of Swords and the Strength card. This is mixing business with pleasure, quite frankly. So for some of you, if you're partnered, married, or in a long-term commitment, you and a significant other could be maybe going into business together. You might be starting something that you're wanting to ink the paper on, let's say. Another way that this could show up as well is in terms of partnerships, right? So you might be forging a partnership. For some of you, this might be through your work. For others, especially with the Strength card, it's almost like in order to have or go after a certain relationship, it requires some kind of bravery. So if you're single, there could be a partnership or relationship on the horizon for you, but it's like it takes courage in order for you to date this person. Maybe because you work with them, maybe because you've dated them before, maybe because a friend or a family member says, I don't really like them. You're having to find your guts and courage to start a new partnership or relationship in some regard. So I'm really intrigued by this. But for those of you that are partnered or married already, this is you and your partner doing something of a financial nature and you're doing it together. And it may very well be, because the Two of Pentacles is not an easy card for money, not always. And, the fact that it falls on top of an ace and next to the Ace of Swords, it's like there's some discussion about money or finances to get clear on the financial situation at the moment that's needing to happen. It might not be the easiest, and remember, you've already got some potentially tough communication coming in, so you just need to be conscious, right? And then for your money and materials, you've got the Justice card with the Eight of Wands, and the Nine of Cups. So this is going to be a request of you for money. This is someone's going to request money from you. It might be that you get a letter from the post, and it will be like, so the Justice card with the Eight of Swords, that's a letter. That's a letter that basically says, because we're talking about your finances here, something like, you owe us X amounts of money. And you're like, I either paid that or it was cleared or whatever, right? And so you're having to rectify or to remedy it. You've got the Nine of Cups here that it finishes on, and so that suggests that it does finish or sort of settle in your favour. So maybe you have to phone them and say, I already paid that off, and you read them the reference number or whatever, and you're like, don't try me. All right. So that's one way this could show up. In terms of you inking a deal or getting a new job or starting some kind of new endeavor, the results and the finances that will come from it are absolutely there. Especially if you're thinking about this in terms of like the longer term future. If you're looking for quick sort of stuff, quick boosts to the cash, you might get that. But it's really over the longer term that this commitment is going to perform, okay? When it comes to your physical health and vitality, I actually really like this for second opinions on issues and problems that you've had of a health nature. I really like this for, the tests that we've run, we sent them off to a second lab, or, we got what do you call it? Not a professional eye. What do they call them? A specialist. We got a specialist to take a look at this for you, and actually, this is what we've discovered. So this could be really good information that comes in around health matters that actually helps you shift forward. Okay, for your weeks of the month, let's see what's going on for you. Alright, so for the first week of the month, and I'm just, like I said, I'm just toying about with different ways of doing these at the moment. For the first week of the month, love this, right? Look at that. You've got the Magician card, potentially rubbing shoulders with a shaker and a mover, somebody that can really help you get ahead. It also suggests that you are stepping into your own personal power. Now, that's going to be a seesaw over the next 2.5 years, because Saturn, the planet of limitations, etc., is moving into the 8th house of power struggles, power identities, etc. So you're claiming your power at the first week of the month, right? So it looks like Leo's basically saying, if I go in swinging, the chances are there's not going to be anything or anyone that can kind of come in and try to take my power. I mean, listen, sometimes the best defense is a good offense, right? Yes, I said that the way that I meant it to sound. The other thing with this as well, especially being the Magician, this may be this first week of the month, you might start to really set some very solid ideas of where you want things to go, and it's like, I'll take on whatever mantle I have to in order to see this through. That's the beauty of Saturn, right? It gives you the determination and the power that you need to see things through to the long run, or at least to see them through to their completion. We've got the Judgment card for the second week, and because it's coupled with the Magician card, this could be a reconnection with a powerful person, a mover and a shaker, somebody that maybe you had worked with previously but it didn't really come off, or maybe somebody that offered you an opportunity before but you didn't have the time, the energy, the money, the resources, whatever it might be, and this time it's like you can finally get that together. It actually works, it goes ahead, so loving that. The other thing with the Judgment card as well, and be mindful of this second week, although there's no big transit happening, there's always a big transit happening, there's nothing big to really write home about in the second week. This for you, I think, is where the change is going to happen. And I wonder, this is kind of like, when you're working out in the gym and stuff, and they say that your rest days is actually where you do the most transformation and stuff. So this might be one of those weeks where not a lot happens, but there is a lot happening. All right. Third week of the month, look at this. You've got the Sun. Oh yeah, so at this point, the Sun will be coming into the sign of Aries. The Sun is your ruling luminary, and so when it comes into the sign of Aries, the Sun is exalted in Aries, and so this could be a great week for you. Interesting as well, because most people have got watch out for this week, because this is the week where Pluto and Mars are both moving house. So really, really interesting, but for you, it looks light, it looks bright. This is a revelation from your past, or for some of you, this is a moment of freedom, of emancipation from your past. So remember I said you're maybe getting a letter or something that says you owe this, or you got to do that, or da-da-da-da-da, and you're like, no, let me squash this shit right now, okay? This could be literally that. It could be as well, so remember I talked about some of you traveling. I wonder if whatever delays with the trip are, or restrictions potentially, are lifted at this time, and then it goes ahead. Then you've got the Devil card for the fourth week of the month, all right? And if you refuse to budge on how something should be done, you may end up missing what could potentially be quite a good opportunity for you. You got to find a way to be flexible in this fourth week of the month. And because it's the Sun card with the Devil, it does say that you will find a way to progress that you're happy with. Whew, excuse me. But also, you know, if there's another party involved, as there probably will be, Pluto's moving into your 7th, you can reach what I would consider like an amicable agreement of how something is going to, you know, progress from here. Okay, so let's have a look at your moon. So I'm not going to go into great detail here because you're getting full moon and new moon report videos, all right? So just one card, like a general sort of look at this. March the 7th, as well as Saturn changing signs, we've got the full moon in the sign of Virgo, which is your money house, your second house of money, finances, and resources. So that could be really nice. And your full moon message is the gate 50 and responsibility. And the message behind this card is not just about taking responsibility for others, but it's about being responsible for yourself. It's interesting that that full moon is taking place opposite the sign of Pisces, before, literally just before Saturn moves into your 8th house. And so I think that this full moon is going to show you where you need to be more responsible and basically more not upfront, but more tighter with your budget. Basically, like, you need to be more stringent with your finances, and this is going to show you how, and more importantly, where in your life you need to be more stringent. Then you've got the gate 3 and begin for your Aries new moon on March the 22nd. This card basically says whatever has a difficult beginning, it's kind of like, you know how with babies, like if they have a really difficult birth or they're really sickly as children, or as babies, they tend to grow up to be like super healthy, super fit, etc. This is kind of that. Whatever this Aries new moon is setting into motion for you, it has a really, like, it's producing something that's going to be great for your long term. And if you can really, you know, if you can, yeah, like if you can really allow yourself to let the universe show you why it's a difficult birth, it can be great for you. And this is happening in your 9th house. The 9th house is your spiritual beliefs, it's foreign travel, cultures, all that kind of stuff. If a journey doesn't go ahead, that's the difficult beginning. Don't worry, when it does, it will be worth the wait. If you're starting a new project, a new business, a new course, a new job, etc., and it's got that sort of Aries new moon energy behind it, this is going to be great for your long term, right? And so as long as you can envision what the future looks like, 9th house is a future facing house because it looks forward and onto and up to the next. It's the house of higher education and philosophies and beliefs. So I really, really like that for you. With that said, I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. Let me know in the comments, do you love it? Do you loathe it? What do you enjoy about these new videos? And take care, and I will see you soon for more.